So you understand what Runnymede does. Our role is to investigate challenges to race equality, to enable social action, to tackle race inequalities, and to influence policy.
This is a general election year, so I would urge all of you to take part in this as well as you can. It may be your one opportunity to really directly question the candidates here, some of them who are standing for Parliament in the general election, some of them for council positions, so make the most of this time. Black males are 5.5 times more likely to be stopped and searched than non-black males. They're more than 3 times as likely to be arrested and 5 times more likely to be in prison than their white counterparts.
I suspect overall that the police probably reflect our society, and there is racism within our society still.
Following on from Norman's comment about how the police reflect society, I mean, interestingly enough, in a lot of ways they don't. The police don't tend to ethnically represent, or even within class terms, gender terms, they don't represent the makeup of society. And I mean, that was one of the things which came out of Macpherson, that unless you have a plurality of people involved, you will never get the different perceptions, the different kind of points of view within a service that actually will respond to people's complaints.
Why is it that the Norfolk Police don't look like the population which they serve? And I think it's important to look at the diversity of the people entering police training. As Clive said earlier, I teach and I spend a lot of time with 16-year-olds as they ponder their career choices. And particularly the young black males in the school that I teach in, who are very bright, very aspirational, they want to give something to their communities. Very few of them consider the police force. And I think that's a serious problem, because we ought to be making the police the kind of career option that we get these young lads and young girls into. And yet they don't feel it's for them. And I think that's a massive barrier for us to overcome.
I think the police have worked extraordinarily hard to try and transform themselves after that process, both in terms of programmes of money and a whole set of different things that have been done. Some forces have tried harder than others. I would say the Metropolitan Police in London has tried more than any other force to try and do it. But going through a series of massive ups and downs, just this week we saw the issues around alley design. A man I know well from the Black Police Association has just been found guilty and ended up in prison. A lot of struggles to try and make progress. I would say fantastic progress has been made.
One of the issues that this is interrelated with is that one thing we measure is public confidence in the police. All public services want to know, how confident are we that the police are dealing with our safety issues? And because of these issues such as stop and search, and because of the high proportions and the higher levels of black people and people from different ethnic minority backgrounds in prison and in being stopped and searched on DNA registers, public confidence in those communities is lowering. So you're not going to get people applying for the police from those communities.
I'm a Romani gypsy, and I've come here to try and represent the community tonight. How do we get political representation?
One way is engagement from the community. The other way is the way back, which is engagement by political parties with your community. And it varies a lot. Political parties aren't always good, and certainly the Labour Party isn't always good at engaging with other communities in the way which it needs to do so.
It's important to look at the statistics to see where we're coming from here. I certainly know that there are currently only 2 BME Conservative MPs in the House of Commons. I'm not quite sure how many Labour have. I don't think there are any for the Liberal Democrats at present. And that's why one of the parts of David Cameron's attempt to modernise the party has been to encourage more BME candidates. Now, for anyone who wants to stand for Parliament and get elected, there are essentially 2 hurdles. Actually, the first one is getting selected, and then the second one is getting elected within the communities themselves. And I think what we need to do is to be better in terms of getting BME candidates or candidates from the Romani community to come forward and, as Charles said, engage and stand as candidates.
The attainment of black Caribbean and black other boys at GCSE level is lower than that for boys from almost any other ethnic group. In 2005 and 6, 35.9% of black Caribbean and 38.9% of black other boys in England achieve 5 or more A to C GCSEs. This compares to 52.6% for white boys, 66.7% for Indian boys, and 74.6% for Chinese boys. So there's quite a big gap there. And also, black and Caribbean and other black pupils are almost 3 times more likely to be excluded from school permanently.
Every pupil, every group is different, and everybody's right to emphasise that. 2, it's parental and community aspiration first and foremost to make sure people are driving, and the communities which go for that do it. 3rd, it's focus, and there's a long conspiracy for decades of not facing up to this issue. I think we are beginning to do that, and in London in particular there's been some fantastic programmes really making a difference in particular schools. You have to focus and say we're addressing it. And then finally, resource makes a big difference. There's no question about it. And actually, I'm quite sympathetic to the Liberals' idea, which Norman just mentioned, of the pupil